Benvenuti all'Istituto Marangoni Milano e alla edizione 2024 del Front Row. Il tema quest'anno è iperessenzialismo, che è un'analisi del panorama creativo, dove la moda e le discipline Allora, parliamo di moda, però oggi anche parliamo della musica, perché essendo anche la musica un medium per diffondere la moda e amplificare la sua potenza,
to diffuse fashion and amplify its communicative power, especially through the performances and the soundtracks and the music of the fashion shows. So we're asking ourselves in which way this new research of the essence, which is the topic of this front row, is transmittable and influences the perception and the communication of fashion. And what is the role of music within fashion today? In fact, today's talk is entitled The Sound of Fashion, inspired to our guest, Matteo Ceccarini. Good morning, good morning. It's working, yes, now it is. Matteo, who is a DJ, producer, sound designer, and also very known for a vision for collective and Aston Martin. His genre goes from contemporary, classic, ambient, techno, minimalistic, electronic, and he is, however, continuously searching for new sounds. Matteo has been discovered in the 1990s by the stylist Franco Ferrif, who got him to know the world of fashion, and keeping creating today for Armani, Westwood, Valentino, and many others. Matteo Ceccarini will converse about fashion and music with Alessandro Castiglioni, our tutor of history and critic of the art and curator of the Maga Museum, senior. And without further ado, we're going to leave the stage to Matteo Ceccarini. Thank you very much. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. So to start, I would want to break the ice a bit with all of our students. Thank you for being so many here this afternoon. Just telling us a little bit about what is your profession. How would you tell about your profession? How would you talk about it with this group of students? What do you do? So let's say that my profession happens in a natural way, in the sense that you have to listen to 8 hours of music every day, and you have to want to do it and feel it. You can't do my job without this push, this emotional push. So you're almost born with it. Also, even the other day, I was talking with Michel Gobert, which is the absolute maestro of this work, who lives in Paris. And also for him, he was saying, you can't do this job if you're not it. So this was born many years ago. It started many years ago. I felt it was pleasant for me to feel music. I had pleasure in it, and it was an emotional pleasure. And from there, I kept on buying vinyls and LPs and so on. And this is how I got here, basically. This is more or less the path, the journey. Okay, so I would like to ask you now, let's say after starting from the a bit more practical, technical aspect, I would like to get into the more poetical one, meaning that the essence of your work, which is the music, has within it an aspect which is in fact actually multidisciplinary. We were talking about it earlier with the interviews. So there are many competencies, especially technical, to reach to composing a soundtrack for a catwalk, but also within your own poetry as a musician, there are many different influences. Diana was talking about electronic music before, but studying your work and looking at your interviews, reading your interviews, there's also a very important aspect with the Oriental cultures. So can you tell us a bit about your sources, the sources from which your poetry comes, and how the knowledge entwines in your work? So as I was saying earlier, with my life being, let's say, acoustic, to the extent that even when I was younger, I wouldn't cross the road by looking, but listening if cars were arriving. All this picture, this complex picture, happens in a harmonious way. I'm sorry, what is the exact question again? Speak about your influences or your poetry, how different cultures mix in your work. So I'm going to look at some archetypes, some ancestral archetypes. If a tune doesn't give me a strong emotion, strong feeling, then I don't use it, and I don't take it into consideration, and I don't do it, and I don't propose it and suggest it. I really need to feel almost like I'm kidnapped by it. First of all, I live it as public. I like to live it as public. So when they ask me for tunes for music, I visualize it with 2,000 mental associations. I imagine, I presume, neurological, and the experience of a whole number of situations. For example, what you're hearing now is it's a sound in 432 gigahertz, which recalls that depth, that ancestral depth, profoundness that I'm talking about. So I want to enter in touch with the most deep part of myself, the most profound part of myself, because I believe it happens also to others, maybe in a subliminal way. And normally it happens. And so I follow this type of poetry, this type of the soundtrack of a catwalk, of a fashion show has to be very impactful, so much that I've even had issues at times, sometimes. Like what? Once in 1999, for the Swiss fashion show, once the catwalk was finished, I was arrested because then you learn things as you go along, okay? But the stylist tells me we have to start, and it has to be like the birth, the rebirth, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put in the sound, the procreation. So in the room there was a bishop, a very important, I think a bishop, and I think also a cardinal were, the procreation, and they asked for procreation. And automatically, I wanted to use some breaths of this. I've got it here. I want to let you hear it now. These breaths of this Greek actress who was called. I'll think about it in a minute. Was it Irene Papas? Yes, it was Irene Papas who had these breaths that in actual fact could have been an orgasm, but not pornographic orgasm. It was they were pleasurable breaths, but to me they weren't vulgar. But at the end of these breaths, I added the blessing of the Pope. But why? I have nothing which is anti-religious, but because as a homage to the bishop who was there, at the time we had Pope Wojtyla, John Paul II, and I had recorded his voice. And so the blessing, how do kids come to be? By procreating. So the Pope was blessing the procreation. So this is what I'm going to hear you now. What I'm going to let you hear now. I was brought away with handcuffs, from the room of Milano Collezioni in the Fiera, in the fair 20 years ago. And I was also sued by 105 Christian associations for They even wanted to
Io
excommunicate
che la
excommunicate
musica aveva
me
veramente un ruolo impattante. Adesso ve lo faccio
for
sentire.
insult to the religion. Here it is.
Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
So
Poi partiva
then the
boom, boom,
boom
tutta
boom
la
boom music would
musica.
start.
Vedo
And
il
I can see
vescovo che
the
si alza e se
bishop
ne va.
that gets
Io
up and leaves. I
console,
was in the console,
parte
and the
la
music
musica,
goes for the
prende,
catwalk.
si va, fa tutte
He
le
does
cose,
all
se ne
this
va.
and then he leaves.
Io rimango lì.
I stay there.
A
He
chiamare i
goes and
carabinieri.
calls the carabinieri, so the
Quindi
police.
preso le-
So they picked me up and took me
Chiaramente
away.
Swish
Of
un
course, for
disastro,
Swish, it was a
pubblicità,
disaster.
la sera
Articles on the
lo
news, the
scandalo
scandal of
della moda,
fashion,
Tutti
and
contentissimi
everyone was
perché
happy, however,
finalmente si
because
parla
finally
di
they can
noi.
talk about
Il
Swish. The brand was,
diciamo,
let's say,
molto
very
contento.
happy about this.
Io un po'
I
meno,
wasn't
poi
that
dopo le
happy
cose
about
sono
it, but
state
then everything
archiviate,
was
perché poi ho
archived
trovato
because I
bravissimo
found a very
intelligente il
intelligent
judge, fuori.
judge, and I explained the whole story, and everything was archived,
Sono stato
and I was
assolto, diciamo,
I was
accuso.
acquitted by
Però questo
these
perché
accusations.
quello che
But
voglio
why
dire
do
è
I say
questo.
this? I say this because
La musica, la serata è un
music, the
momento
catwalk,
di
the
epifania
fashion
totale,
show is a
un
moment of
momento in cui
complete
ci sono
epiphany. It's
tutti
a
i
moment when
riflettori
all
puntati
the lights are on
di
you
tutto il
from the
mondo
whole
per
world
vedere
on you,
soprattutto di grandi stilisti,
especially
stati di grandi
from the
stilisti.
great
Quello che
stylists.
fa la
What
musica
music
è
does is
impattante
to
tantissimo.
really, it's
Cioè,
really
tu puoi
impactful.
veicolare
You can
messaggi,
really
puoi
get messages
farti
across. You can
criticare,
really have yourself
puoi...
criticized.
Se usi
If
la
you use
musica in
music
modo
in an
intelligente,
intelligent way,
ottieni
you
risultati
get
incredibili.
incredible
Questo è,
results. And this is
sto dicendo.
everything that I'm saying. So I'm going to ask you something about, like, connected to the mythology, the work methodology. Let's talk about this within the example that you just gave us. There's a philosopher, a studious, an alumni from Nicola Burio from Paris, who puts at the center as an example of the cultural practices of our times, the DJ. Nicola Burio says the DJ is a metaphor of how we make culture nowadays, meaning by remixing and re-putting together, remixing the knowledge, the images, the sounds, the knowledge that live around us. Do you feel a bit the responsibility of a work that represents our era?
Allora, sì,
Well,
perché
yes,
come
because
appena
as I
detto,
just said, what we do
arriva. Quindi sì,
reaches
Burio
people.
ha
And Burio
ragione,
is
perché
right, because in the
alla
end,
se
if
tu,
you
cioè, per fare
like to
cose
do
nuove
new
devi
things,
conoscere
you have to
bene
really know well
il
the
passato.
past.
E molti non lo
And
conoscono.
not many know it.
Quindi
So
avviene
it
naturalmente
happens
che
in a
prendi
natural
le
way that
cose
you
e
get
le
things
rifai,
and you
così,
remodel
fai
them
di
instead
nuovo.
of
DJ
making new ones. The DJ, as you said, takes all the tunes, he remixes it, he uses what is already there,
come l'arte, come
like
Andy Warhol.
art, like Andy Warhol.
Dagli anni 80
From
in
the
poi
80s onwards,
è avvenuta questa,
this happened,
diciamo,
this
forma
form,
di
of
rimodellamento
remodeling
del
of
passato
the
senza la creazione di cose
past
nuove. L'unica
without
cosa
the creation of
nuova
something
a livello
new. The only
musicale
new thing on
che
a musical
è
level
venuta
that has come
fuori a
out
fine
in
anni
the end,
80
at the end of the
house
80s is the house music,
praticamente
which
da
basically
20 anni di disco
from
music
20 years of
negli
disco
70,
music, which were
c'è stata proprio
from
una
the 70s disco
trasformazione
music, there was an
sonora incredibile,
incredible
coi primi brani
sound
che
transformation with the
Pump Up
first
the Volume, anni lì.
tunes like Pump Up the Volume and
Avvertivi
so on.
proprio la
And you
novità
could
digitale
feel
del
the
tutto.
novelty, the digital novelty of
Si
it.
passava dalle
And you
orchestrine
go from the
degli
little
70
orchestras of the 70s
si andava nelle
and you
elettroniche.
go into the electronic.
E quindi cos'era?
And sorry, what was the question? No, I just want to know if you agreed with Burio, if you felt a bit like,
Sì,
oh
sì,
yeah,
sono
yes,
d'accordissimo.
definitely, I really am completely
Anche
agree.
Mantegna,
But even
per
Mantegna,
esempio,
for example,
cioè, quando
when
non
you
conosci
don't
le
know
cose, rimodelli
things,
quello che
then you
hai.
remodel what you have. Okay, so in this sense, starting from another example, a very famous example of your career, that has to do with the recording of the the rustling of the clothes done for Ferré. I would like to ask you, how does the dialogue live with the creative directors, and in which way you bring forward your poetry as a musician and as a sound designer, and how does it instead meet or clash with the creative director? So people like me, the ones like me, when they're called, they somehow listen to by the creative director, because, as I was saying earlier, something that is a bit funny to say, you know, if you wanted a paint, a plasterer, you don't call a painter an artistic painter. So there's a respect for me, or like the people who do the lights. It's not like you're going to do the lights. You also have to trust the experience that somebody has built. And the poetics, I think, you know, just like for Ferré, those sounds, we were tired of listening to music, because at some point you get bored about you get bored of listening to the music at catwalks. It's always the same, always. So we thought of putting some microphones on the models, on specific clothes and shoes. And there was, for example, a Naomi that would come out with a whole coral dress, and she did a whole really crazy sound. And so we did a catwalk all on sounds, which was very powerful, because in that sound there is the imagination. In that noise is the imagination, and everybody's silent, and you just hear these noises, and the brain can create different mental poetry, and each can go and look at whichever thing they're thinking about. But it had such a strong dramatic impact. And people appreciated it. They liked it very much. Also these silences, and also at the time, the catwalks would last forever. They would last 50 minutes. So it was an experience, very hypnotizing experience, very profound. So you've introduced this topic that I wanted to talk about, which is the one of the time factor, meaning that a characteristic of the catwalk and of the fashion world, generally speaking, is its speed and its immediacy. We're talking about this hyper essentialism, because we're talking about this, everything has to get there immediately. Whilst the music time is the moment of immersion, of slowing down. In which way do these two aspects, I mean, saying it like this, they can look like very far apart, but actually they come together and they condensate in the moment that you think and you plan and you create, and then you play in fashion shows. Well, so I don't think I see this condition. I bring a dilution of time with the music, with like a track like this one. You can have all the speed you want, but then you kind of actually stop. Like a Zen maestro would say, if you're in a rush, slow down. And I think that what you're saying culminates in the unification of the contrast. So you get together with the music that nails you there, you close the circle, and you live a real experience. Because if it were speed plus speed, then you would lose everything and you wouldn't remember anything. If everything was slow, it would be boring as hell. So this dualism of speed and slowness creates this level of magic, this layer of magic. Okay, that's very nice. And in this sense, I get a question connected also to this power, this image that you have just talked about, the idea that the music can open a time, a different time. And it's an image that is very strong to me. But next to this aspect, there's also another onto which, in fact, the contemporary music has worked an awful lot in the last 50 years, which is the one of space, of this spatial, the specialization of the sound and the architecture. So apart from this aspect of time. Also, is the space important to you? It's important. Yes, of course, everything is important. Absolutely everything is important. Space is important, even if in the fashion, this is a secondary aspect, because I want to remind you that in the catwalk, the subjects are the clothes, not the music. So space, you study the space and you put the music that is more adapt for the space, so that you don't violate people, because if you have very, very high ceilings or particular windows and you use techno music, basically you just create a chaos. Nothing nice comes of it. But the space, you realize more and better if you do musical performances. But in a catwalk, the space is secondary. So we take care of it, but it's not chosen based on the music, basically. It's chosen based on the aesthetics of a stylist, and that's it. Then the music will have to be part, but they don't, when they ask me what music to put, I ask immediately what kind of space you have, because everything changes. And so it's taken into consideration at this stage. Okay, so in this sense, I'm going to go back to what you've just said, because in actual fact, it's an aspect that is actually very important. So when you work at the sound dimension and musical of a catwalk, then they have to be at the center of it. They have to be the clothing, because that's what the catwalk, the fashion show is about. In which way does it happen in your creative process, the maintenance of what you're interested in, and the centrality of the clothing? How do you create this balance? How is it created? So when they show me the clothing, so I have a style. When you call someone like me, it's because you know what kind of style you want. I have a very, let's say, impactful style, actually probably even too much, too impactful. Sometimes they get angry. They're angry because the music is too, it distracts a bit too much compared to the collection. You go too much into the music. This is one of my defects, but this is how it is. As I was saying earlier, I want to kidnap people. So they talk to me about the collection, they tell me what they want, and at that point, I find for a whole number of mental associations that I have given by the experience of when I was young, the sounds, etc., 8,000 million situations, they converge in an instant, and you find the right track, which could be, I don't know, this. You choose the right track, the right tune, and I visualize already the thing you suggested, and then if you find someone intelligent that understands, we're all happy. Otherwise, you fight. You know, you fight for the stylist's own good, for the designer's good, because I already know what will happen in the catwalk, and the stylist, the designer doesn't. So this, for example, so here, you should have images in your mind right now. Maybe you don't have them. I don't know. Maybe it's just for me. Maybe only I have them. But here, you should enter in a journey. You should be part of a journey. So you fight with the designer for his own good. And sometimes I also did have rows with them. And if you had to think about some projects or some catwalks or some fashion shows that were particularly successful for you, or even, you know, with, can you tell us about some of them? Well, there are many. This one, Swish, for example, the one for Ferré, of all bits and pieces, and many of Vivienne Westwood. Vivienne Westwood taught me incredible things. She really taught me about the mistake. She taught me mistake. I would arrive at Vivienne Westwood with all my, let's say, ideas, and she would say, no, this is too banal. She really always made me feel tiny. And at the beginning, I would study her, but then I understood that Vivienne Westwood was at another level. She was really, hers wasn't fashion, it was culture. And so I learned and I started learning, and she would tell me to do the wrong mixes, to mix in the wrong way, to make a mistake, to come in just at the wrong time. And I would say, oh my God, you know, how the hell am I going to do that? It's something that is unnatural. And the people have to be surprised. They have to think that it's not confection, it's not done on purpose, that you've not done your homework. So she gave me this courage that only she could give me, because she was completely punk. And on top of that, she taught me a whole number of about Bach and Mozart. She really was. So many Vivienne Westwood fashion shows were incredible. Armani also. Armani, and you know, he's a samurai. And rigorous music's incredible. Rigorous, but with behind them such a depth of reading and in meaning as well. I feel very similar to the aesthetics of Armani, the philosophical one. Let's say that I try to do memorable fashion shows in terms of music. Of course, maybe, you know, what you see doesn't work, but to me, they all of them. So you spoke, mentioning Vivienne Westwood, about a question that I find very interesting, which is the one of the mistake. But apart from this, there's also another aspect which seems to connect to the one of the mistake. Was actually, it's a essential composition method, which for you has always been important, which is the one about the silence. Can you tell us what it is to have sound and silence interact? Okay, I just want to let you hear something by Ferre very quickly, the one about the sounds. And this was the atmosphere. These are suggestions, lyrical suggestions, steps. Then there's a crescendo. These are repeated steps. So with the music, you can do whatever you want. This basically is a sound sculpture. Yes, you can do whatever you want, really, with music. If you govern the sound, you can't learn it. So at the beginning, I'm connecting again to the first question. You don't do my job because you go to school, and my job you do because you are the job. And since I was a young boy, maybe I was sad and I would hear a tune or a track and I would be uplifted. So I would use the music as a medicine. And this medicine, I abused of this medicine. And what happened? That I've learned to get into the depths and the nuances and the profoundness of what a track can evoke. All of you will have got all emotional or about a film track, and that stuff has power. If you do it every day, for 8 hours a day, for 30 years, you just enter the world of wonder where everything is sound. Now, even now, silence is also sound. The silence that you've just asked me about is fundamental, because silence does not exist. Everybody thinks that silence exists, but silence does not exist. There never is silence, not even in the anechoic room, which is the most silent room in the world with no refraction. Because in the anechoic room, you hear your sound of your body, you hear yourself. So silence does not exist. And in fact, I would like to say that silence is another shape of sound. So what was the question again? No, I asked you to say about the importance of silence. Silence is very important, although it doesn't exist. It's a silent status, let's say. I'm sorry if I I always ask you what the question was, but I took a paracetamol and I'm a little bit, I'm very sensitive to medicines. So silence is a state, a musical state, in which you enter in touch with yourself. You get in touch with yourself. In fact, all the great sacred celebrations have silence. Silence, which is not silence, however, is the sound of your soul. If you go in a state of profound meditation, when you're in meditation, there's no silence. Let's say that all the sounds are absorbed in a more let's say experiential way. So it becomes silence, but it's not silence. And within the process, also the listening during a catwalk, have you managed to introduce silence, or this perception that then is connected to the idea of rhythm and empty and absence of presence and absence? And yes, every now and again, I have to say that in a fashion walk, in a catwalk, the silence is something that the designer hates the most. And the fashion stylist doesn't like it, doesn't want it. They are afraid that something is interrupted. And let's say that the stylists are people that are very knowledgeable from some aspects, but also very, and quite rightly, worried that everything will go right. So silence is scary for them, and I always fight so that, because silence creates also a hypnotic state. Because so when a piano piece stops, there's a moment of silence, like something like this, for example. It has its whole piece, and then when you get to the silence before the next piece, I find that it's a moment that is very powerful, because at that moment, everything stops and you say, oh my God, what's happening here? And then maybe another piece comes in, another track comes in, that now I can't. Okay, why can't we hear it now? Okay. And it's really, really important. Silence is super important, but it's very difficult to use it in a fashion show. As you were saying, normally the fashion shows are all hyper fast and they all, you know, they really want to assault you. But a moment of silence, where is the moment of silence? So let's say that there is in the in the fashion walk, where they're very aware, where the stylist, the designer doesn't have to, they don't have to say anything anymore. The great stylists use silence. Chanel, many of hers, the music gets to a certain point and then it stops. And then the next piece comes in with a lot of very sure, they're virtuosism. When there is silence, you have a virtuous moment. So this reading that you can give through music of fashion, to me, it's really very interesting, also because it shows a capability that obviously here at school we discuss about often, as if it were a multiple look, or as Achille Bonito-Oliva would say, that looking at art, you have to have a crossed eyes, so an eye that goes one way and an eye that goes another way. So I like this crossed eye idea. And what recommendation could you give in front of such a wide class of students? So how do you learn to be cross-eyed? Now, first of all, you're so many, and I'm really, you know, surprised that a subject like this could interest you. So this is really good. Well, you have to feel the instinct. Each and every one of you has the voice inside, and that's where the answer is. Look at everything and bring everything within this this thought process that each and every one of us has. So, for example, what example can I give you? If you look at a sculpture or a building, and you say, oh, how bizarre, it has openings. And the openings are not a problem or a mistake. They happen, other things happen. So you have to give value to everything, basically, and transform it in what you feel. So being cross-eyed is an intelligent view, way of looking at things, because it doesn't limit you. It opens horizons. Like, for example, it happened to us with music and the catwalks at the beginning. When I started in the 90s, we had disco music. We didn't have all this research, all this sound design, all this stuff here. We had pieces, the tracks, the ABBA tracks, and these were the catwalks and the fashion shows. Then for a natural cycle, maybe we arrived with the more film, cinematographic music, more research, all the way to getting to sound design and silence and Yuji Yamamoto, things that were very sought after, very researched. This because we go more and more in depth. So if I have to give a recommendation to them without saying, but being banal, but it is probably, to feel your instinct, because that's where the truth is. Not listen to what others say. You have an idea, that is it. That's what it is. And then if you get it wrong, you're just going to learn. It has to be like this. So basically, in the end, you go back to talking about the importance of the mistake. Yes, exactly, because you can't think that you're always going to do everything right and that you're always going to be right. We're all wrong. Each and every one of us is wrong. I followed my instinct in a very total way, completely. Sometimes I thought I was wrong, but then in the long run, in the short run, it might seem that you're getting things wrong, but in the long run, you're always right. Also because the instinct that each and every one of us has is part of its energy, of its nature, and you can't get it wrong in following it. You can't be wrong in following it. So I recommend this something that is very banal, to follow your instinct and fight for what you believe in. Absolutely. Sooner or later, results will come your way. For sure. Absolutely sure. Whilst if you don't follow your instinct, you get away from yourself, your nature, the results may not come. And in the understanding the instinct, you never get tired. My profession is made by obsessions. You could not listen to 8 hours of music every day for eight hours every day for 30 years, because it would be an obsession, not even a Russian torture, it would be terrible. If I heard each and every one of you music every day for 30 years, I don't know where they're going to find it. So you have to follow your instinct, whatever it is. So then you're going to be tireless. Thank you. Listen, I'm going to ask you one last question. If there are, so amongst all the different episodes and stories that we talked about in this conversation, is there any other piece that you want us to listen to, or another piece that maybe has a specific meaning, or that can tell something about your practice or yourself? Let's see if we can hear it. You can't hear this. Okay. No, actually, if you guys had questions, yes. This is where I come into thing. I manage the Q&A. So first we had a technical question about Gianfranco Ferré when you talked to us about this fashion show. Yes, we wanted to. Maybe we missed it. What fashion show was it? What season was it? Which year? Ferré, with the music, with the sound of the clothes. We want to go and see it. So I can't absolutely remember it now. I really do not in any way. But it will be probably around 1998, but I have to find it. Yeah, we'll find it. I remember 96, but I'm wrong. 96 or 98? So there should be an outfit with Naomi Campbell covered in coral,
Corallo rosso.
red coral.
Sì, una collana è nuda,
She's naked
con questa
with this
mega
huge,
collana.
basically, necklace of red coral.
Sì. Se vuoi mi informo e lo chiedo.
Allora, io anche subito una
I
domanda.
also have a
Quando vai a vedere le sfilate,
question. When you go
spesso,
to catwalks, to fashion shows, often when one goes to fashion shows, the whole catwalk has a concept, which can be a musical, electronic, or whatever else. But then the finale arrives, the final moment where all the models come out, the final walkout, and then the designer, the stylist, who is always different. 99% of the time it's something different. It's a different song, or it's a sang song, or there's a specific musician or a famous musician. Is there a reason why that it interrupts the flow in this way? And how have you seen the stylist choose that song, that track? Now, you've asked a very smart question. The finale is the, let's say, the end title soundtrack. So every stylist shows there its real nature. In fact, the finale has not much to do with us because it's something very personal. Often they choose it themselves. They say, I like this piece and I don't care, I want this piece. And maybe it's something that is horrendous. So the closing theme song is never for me. Maybe I can suggest a closing theme song, but the finale is the Naked King, you know, it's beautiful music, poetical and fantastic. And then there is the piece of, I don't know, Michael Jackson, for example, which we say, yes, it's fine, but not here, not in this moment. The finale is it's a theme song, it's a closing theme song, and it has to recall the applause, and it has to be, let's say, explosive, because otherwise it becomes, you know, something very sad. So on the finale, unfortunately that is where I give in. I just give in and let go, because sometimes they've asked me, I'm not going to say names, otherwise they're going to sue me. But for example, they asked me Italian tracks like Ornella Vanoni, which is beautiful, but if you listen, but you hear it in another circumstance, not at the end of a catwalk, you know, not Ornella Vanoni at the end of a fashion show, it doesn't work. But this is how it is, you know, they wanted it and I put it on for them. Yes, it's something sentimental and personal. The finale is the pure nature of the designer. So for example, this morning I was at Blue Marine, which had the debut with Walter Chiapponi, who is one of our mentors for the second semester. And the very bizarre choice, there was Heroes by David Bowie, but sang in German. Okay, don't let me judge thing. No, I just wanted to share. So Hero by David Bowie has been used by everyone thousands and thousands of times. And there's something like, you know, enough. As he was saying, as Nicola Burrio, if you keep using the same thing, you know, I wouldn't use it anymore. I would use it for another genre of performance. Decontextualize. In fashion, there are some iconic pieces that everybody's used hundreds of times that I can't stand listening to anymore, which is Grace Jones, Libertango, or Patti Smith, The Heroes. You know, Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones. Not Sympathy for the Devil, the other one. No, Rolling Stones. This one. There are things that it becomes cheap. It really becomes cheap. On top of this, it's already been seen thousands of times. So what I think is what you have to do with a fashion show is this, is to give... You can't hear it anymore. You can't hear it anymore. Just a minute. Anyone tell me? No, it's got nothing to do with the... She's like a rainbow. Everyone's used this thousands of times. In the finale. So it's banal, this. And I think what you have to do with a fashion show is to give a new message, a contemporary message, fresh. But even if you've not understood, rather than do something that have been done over and over again. So heroes in German on top of that, it must be something absolutely unlistenable. Apologies. With me being German, you know. Was it him? Who? David Bowie. Oh, David Bowie was singing in German. Okay. Do you have questions from the floor? Here? Hi. Okay, so good evening. I'm a teacher here at Istituto Marangoni, and often I suggest my students to look at the fashion catwalks, to look at the video of the fashion shows, because there's a story behind the video given by the catwalk in itself, by the music, by the lights, by the context, and also because this narrative, which is the communication of the image and of the sound, tells a lot more than just the image, the photography. And often music gives trends in fashion. But I'm asking myself, you know, I'm a great lover of music, of the fashion shows, and so I really listen and I look at a lot, listen very much and look at a lot. And I have a feeling that something's happening. But is there, in fact, a trend that starts from the fashion shows? And I'm asking mainly for my students, are there sounds that characterize maybe more this historical era, historical moment? So once there were once upon a time, yes, but not now. Now, everything is very fragmented. So today she saw David Bowie in German. Yesterday there was a whole piano fashion show. There's no longer a trend because all this hyper communication, everything is fragmented. There are billions of things that are happening, and in the end, there isn't just one flow in the fashion shows in terms of music. Once everybody would go in the same direction. There was a moment, in fact, where they would ask me the Cuban jazz music, but for more designers would ask me that, and I would wonder why it's such a specific request. So probably everybody in the 20s music, then each and everyone with their own way, from the Marlene Dietrich song to the strange piano music. So everyone was there. Whilst now, there's a total chaos where somebody does the 20s and someone else does heroes and the other one does a piano. So no, not right now. I don't feel there's a complete confusion. I don't even think there is in fashion this either, because once, even in fashion, in the aesthetics of fashion, everybody would move in the same direction. Once now, one does yellow, one does red, there's macro trends. Now there are, so I can't hear very well, but everything changes very quickly. There are some breaks. There are some cracks. So what results has been all with these little cracks, immediately they become, yes, and this happens more or less in all the latest fashion shows, probably even the more important ones. Yeah.
Grazie.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Oh, okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Tatiana Grach. I'm a fashion design student, second year. I'm also a singer. And I was looking for a way to combine the two passions that I have. So I was wondering what advice you would give to somebody looking to enter into the world of music and fashion combined.
Can I answer in Italian? Yes, of course. Yes. So getting into the world of music and fashion combined, I don't know. I swear. What would you like to do? I would like to sing and do design, but maybe more practically can I create connections to get into this musical world? So I can't hear the teacher. Okay. Well, you should have to sing from your own home. Meanwhile, with the you know, nowadays with the not by spending not too much, you can get all the tools and you can divulge it in social. We will find you at that point because we are absolutely we are hounds, and then this is how things happen physiologically. In social, more Instagram or TikTok? More Instagram. Because we're old, you know, so it's a bit more on Instagram. Okay, we have another question here at the front. I'm going to speak English, apologies.
First, you're very talented. Thank you so much for being here. I love your style. I love your music. I'm not sure if it was the third song. I'm a choreographer. And so it might have been the third or fourth song, but like the stumping. And so immediately I pictured like Tom Ford, all black, male and female, water coming down, and then like, you know, different colors popping out. What were you visualizing when you made that song? Because it really spoke to me. And the second part of my question is, how do you incorporate sustainability? Do you reuse your materials, like your microphones, your headphones? Do you donate them so they can have a second life?
Okay, so I have a style. You understand Italian? I have a style which I apply to all my requests. What song are you talking about? So then we can listen to it very quickly. Which track were you talking about?
Tipo il terzo, qualcosa con stomping, cioè che qualcuno camminava.
Okay, right. The Ferré one. So this one we recorded the steps. We recorded the steps of the girls during the catwalk. I multiplied them. I put some lyrical voice, an opera voice, because I liked this, the contrast that had no reason, no meaning at all. Because sometimes also by using things that have no meaning at all, that make no sense, have an effect of a novelty, like Westwood taught me. So this one that does, with these steps underneath have nothing to do with each other, but as she was saying, they give me a vision. Immediately I see things, and I hope it will happen also to you. And also, because it wasn't enough, and seeing as I am someone who comes from, I come from a techno school, so I started hitting hard with rhythm. These shots, hits that are very push subwoofer. And then now the piece explodes now. Can you pump up the volume please a little bit? So this now there's only one amplifier here. This is an example of sound design. Only one sound box. Now, keep in mind that this is from 1996. So, I don't know, 30 years ago? Just to give you a contextualization, a temporal contextualization. At the time when the people heard this with a ridiculous volume, because then every music has its own volume. If you listen to techno, you have to have it really loud. To me, everything has to vibrate. Whilst if you put the piano, then you can put lower volumes. This one, on that day, there were the journalists that came out without hair, basically. And they still talk about it to date. Okay. And the second part is on sustainability. If somehow you include sustainability in your work, you were giving me the example about reusing your headphones, or do you collaborate to sustainability? Does it have anything to do with your work? So I have a wife that really bugs me on sustainability. To be honest, I'm careful, but I don't think about reusing things. I use the things that are necessary. If they break, I throw them away. Also because it would cost a lot more to fix them than to buy new ones, those things now. So I'm careful about general sustainability of life rather than in work. And sound doesn't pollute in that sense. No, sound is vegan. This one is vegan. Thank you. You're welcome. I have a question, another question. When you're in the first phase, when you talk with the stylists, the designers to find the sound design for their catwalk, the fashion show, do you see the theme more, or do you see the clothing, or the colors, or the shapes, or what is your process? The process is that you see everything. You see the brand, you see what the brand is in that moment in the world. You see the stylist in his psychology. You see the clothes, you see the room, you see the location, you see what going at that time, in that moment in the music, not in sense of a trend, but what historical moment it is. There's war, there is no war. So there's a very complex vision and very vast vision to choose a track, a tune, music. You take many, many aspects into consideration beyond clothing, the shoes that they're going to wear so that they don't run too much on fast music and they can't do it. Clothing, what the stylist wants to say, the historical moment, the location, what the stylist wants to talk about. What is the soul of the brand? So if the 20s is Prada, they'll have a certain type of intellectualism. If Dior does it, there's another type. So you take into consideration many factors. It's not easy. It's really not easy. No. Then, of course, anyone can do the catwalk music, fashion show music. I don't want to scare you now in all these stories, but anyone can do it. In fact, I think that someone who doesn't have experience could create something that is new, because by not having all this vision, and they can express maybe something new, novelty, because people like me, the ones like me, nowadays they're inevitably in this balloon of I have a style, and yes, I look for spontaneity, but I realize that the technique holds me. While somebody who is new, maybe they would have the courage to do things that I probably wouldn't. So there are parallels also for fashion in these things. Yes, exactly. Sometimes not knowing anything is probably better than knowing, in the exception of something new. Other questions? Here we go. But I wanted to say, however, that a catwalk, a fashion show, that is the work of 6 very hard months of work for a designer, that fashion show has in its music a support, a fundamental help, because if the music doesn't work, if it's not right, or if it's not correct, the stylist, the designer will have an aesthetic damage. So the experience becomes doesn't become pleasant at all. You know, it can suffer from it. Whilst if the music works, it amplifies everything, the whole wonder of it. So the music in a fashion show, in a catwalk, is really an element that is absolutely fundamental. This good morning, my name is Sole, and I'm studying the 2nd year of fashion design. And I wanted to ask something which I would be really curious in knowing. You spoke about the meaning of the silence in sound, and I'd be really curious in knowing what is the role of words? What could the role of words be in a sound? So words I pretty much never use. I asked because from the basis, from the tracks, I perceive this. So I use special words, such as these, which are poems. Now, this is Leopardi, Giacomo Leopardi. We used it last year. The words, I never use words because words keep you in the word. If you listen to a song, your mind will not go into your imagination like the instrumental piece, because in an instrumental piece, each and every one imagines things because there's no words, there's only music, and so the brain will fly, whilst the music keeps you linked to the text. If it talks about love or something in particular, it keeps you, it ties you to that. So I don't want to limit, however, people. I want to create an experience that is like a cinematographic experience in your brain. And to do this, I have to use instrumental music. Otherwise, I already give you the film. Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Okay, we have another question in English, and I would say the last one because otherwise we'll be here a bit too long. Oh, we can stay here till tomorrow, no worries.
Hi, my name is Rachita. I'm an intensive student. I wanted to know about the element of dance with music in a fashion show.
Allora,
she has a translation in her ear, so you can answer in Italian if you want. Okay, so the fashion show almost never has a music, a dancing music, let's say, because it's not a place where you dance. So the stylist often says, no, this piece is a bit too disco, this piece is a bit too dancey. It shouldn't recall dancing. It should be a music that takes or carries the walk, goes along with the walk in a cinematographic feeling and imaginary, not dancing. Even when you use techno, you always try to move away the most banal elements of the dancing factors. So, for example, the Charleston, when you hear tunes, 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 so that you really just want to start moving, it's not a disco. So we use the techno musics, we take away the parts that are more vulgar, said like in a vulgar way, the dancing bits. So we're always far away, unless there is a ballet or a show, a dance within it. But we try to stay away from the dancing moment. And this is another correct question to ask, because a stylist, the designer, is scared about dancing and silence. These are the two things that angst the designer. No discotheque here, you know, make sure. Okay. How much does the speed of the walk of the models influence you? Because the models are influenced by the beat, and so the request of the director of the fashion show, how fast the model has to get to the length of the catwalk. You know, how many times has it gone against what you had in mind because the beat would change everything? Do you have this technical issue? So the beat is chosen by us. So it's the girl that has to adapt to it. If we, as I said, if we decide to do techno music, but then they have 18-centimeter heels, I need to know, because you can't, some fall over, some can't do it. So imagine the show. They need to have shoes, maybe boots with this sound, or maybe boots with which you can really go fast. So you decide it beforehand, the type of speed of the music based on the clothing. Maybe they're all dressed tight, and a music like this, you know, that just, it becomes just a little bit, it becomes comical. So there's a whole, so there's a mega technical aspect apart from the poetical one of inspiration, all of that. Absolutely, the length of the catwalk, or the type of the tightness of the skirts, and all of this influences the sound in the first phase. Okay, so this is super interesting to get to know all these technical parts. So Silas, for example, says, I have some really, really tight skirts. I don't then get there with a, you know, fierce techno, because how can they move? So it's the first notion, this one. That what kind of dresses are they? What kind of clothing is it? Okay, if they have this type of dress, then we can do this.
Ciao.
Hi, okay, my name is,
I'm going to be asking
okay.
in English. So you talked about not really wanting to incorporate dance within a runway, and I totally get that. But I also see kind of a shift in really creating an experience and a lasting memory during runways. You even see this, for example, Diesel did a runway where they transformed their entire runway into a rave. Margiela was very theatrical. So do you see that there could be maybe a shift towards combining fashion with the world of art, dance, and even theater?
Okay, so there are some cases in which, as you said, Diesel did a rave, but it was the theme of the show. So at the beginning, the stylist says, I want to do a rave, or I want to do something theatrical. And then from there, you start with the whole research, the musical research based on that. But it's an explicit request of the stylist, which is probably inspired to the world of rave, and then he wants rave. But apart from these exceptions, it almost never happened. That it really has to be that these are real exceptions when they ask you a rave music or theatrical. Yes, I was also thinking just before the pandemic, Marni, who had Lorenzo Signi, was invited, and they basically did a rave, but that was the construction of a concept. Yes, exactly. It's a concept. Yeah, there's a choreographer, special choreographer for it. Yes, you can do whatever you want. You can do anything. You're told at the beginning, okay, we're doing a rave, then perfect, we can do a rave, and it's fantastic. I've done many, also, even again for Ferré, I did an amazing rave many, many years ago with everything fluo and in Goa style 80s techno trance music. It was this was you, yes.
Anche questo è
This
davvero
is also wonderful to find. At some point, at one point, there was complete darkness. A techno piece starts that is crazy.
una roba
Um,
proprio aspetta,
Almost like a furious piece, and like this one, but worse. No, wait.
Allora, buio
Okay,
totale,
complete darkness,
escono
and
escono le
the girls
ragazze
come
tutte
out all
vestite
dressed in fluo,
tutto buio totale,
all
con
complete
luci,
darkness,
black lights,
neon colored, so
Hollywood.
black lights.
Quindi
So
vedevi queste robe
all you could do,
da
you could see
rave
this
nella
rave stuff in
giungla,
like rave images in the jungle
con dei brani
with
tipo questi,
tracks like this one,
e lì ti
and
emozioni.
you really strong emotions there. Right, spring summer 2001. Spring summer 2001.
Quella con la cosa rossa.
Yes, the red necklace.
Esatto.
Ad esempio questo qui l'ho
So
fatto
this one,
l'anno
for example, I
scorso.
did last year.
Ecco, questo è il
Okay, so this
massimo
is the
della voce
maximum of the voice,
delle-
the absolute top of
degli
maximum of the
accenti,
voice that I
no?
use. Some like just slight hints.
Non so, poi magari non vi
Then maybe you
piace.
don't like it, you know.
Vi
Do
piace
you like a
questo
piece like
video?
this?
Sinceramente.
Like, be honest.
Eh? Alzi la mano
Hands
a
up,
chi
the
piace
people who
questo.
like a piece like this, a track like
Sono
this.
contento.
Well, good, I'm happy about this.
E
And
questo è un altro
this is
pezzo.
another track.
La voce,
The
la
voice,
ragazza
I'm
là,
answering to the girl there.
si può usare
You
anche
can
così.
also use it like this.
Questo era
This was
una serata di Armani.
Armani catwalk, a recent Armani catwalk fashion show,
Mi
and
evocava
it would evoke the innocence,
no? Una cosa un po' alla
something like a
Peter
Peter Greenaway,
il regista
the
inglese.
English director.
E questo l'abbiamo fatto
And this
qualche
we
mese
did a
fa
few months ago
con le
with the
voci.
voices.
Sono eccezioni.
They're exceptions,
Quindi
is
era
okay.
uomo?
So was it one man? No,
questo
this
era
was women
Madonna, a settembre.
in September.
Benissimo.
Okay, great.
Non lo so,
I don't know.
ho paura
I'm
di
scared of
sbagliare.
boring you, so I swear.
Dico,
I'd
magari
say
non
maybe they're gonna think
No,
I don't know.
direi, cioè, non abbiamo mai
No, we've
avuto
never
qualcuno
had
che ci
anyone that
suona
could
musica
play
dal
music
vivo
live for
in
us
una
in a
talk,
talk.
quindi
So
assolutamente
absolutely, it's
meritato.
something really particular today. So thank you so
Ringraziamo che
much
hai
that
avuto tu
you've had the
l'idea
idea
di
of
portare
bringing the
musica
music
all'interno
within.
del
Otherwise, what
salotto.
we're gonna do?
Sì, no.
How could we do it otherwise? Yes, you're right.
potrei stare
No, but I
qui
could stay here.
questo è
Like,
un
this is
pezzo
an
che mi
iconic piece, an
impazzisce.
incredible iconic piece.
Questo qui è Laurie
This is
Anderson.
Laurie Anderson.
Questa è
Anderson.
sì, super.
This is Superman.
Allora, questo qui
Now this
nasce
is
così.
was born like this.
Non so se lo
I don't know if you know it.
Questo
This
è un pezzo
is a
degli
piece
anni
from the
80,
80s.
sì. Ecco, e noi
Okay,
l'abbiamo reso
and we made it like this. We made it like this. This piece, the English like this piece very much. The English stylists like this very much. Designers like this very much. And this was a particular fashion show. Yes, this one we used, and I can't remember, maybe for the Westward, for Westward. She would say, oh, use the Laurie Henderson, this, but this is too empty, you know, it's just her without rhythm. Put something on it. So I was scared because she's always a bit strange. And I said, oh, damn it. I don't want to do something that is banal. And instead she liked it. She liked it as it was. And I have to say that incredible emotions, because then you hear the piece, the track here, but imagine a room, the lights, the clothing, the top models, the people. So there's an incredible energy and a very high volume. And they move. It's very emotional. It's very exciting. It's beautiful. Maybe as a closing piece, we can listen to your composition, your favorite composition, the one that represents you the most, that you love particularly. No, there isn't one. They're all your kids. No, there isn't one. I don't know. There isn't a composition. All the ones that you heard represent me. I don't know. Maybe I could. Let's see. Well, I don't know. Oh, there was this one that I wanted you to hear, but I want you to listen to this, but you can't hear it. Here it is. So this is Philip Glass. He is the greatest musician, classic musician, contemporary living, still alive. And he is the father of minimalism. And he does these pieces that are circular. They are repetitions that change slowly change something as they go. This music is used for ballet, is used for 12,000 things. And when you get to this music here, there's nothing else after it. You got at the end, you're at the end of your research, because he has something sacred about him. It's part of those musicians that are completely inspired, and he is like, he could be like Gandhi or Dalai Lama. That's how illuminated he is. And this music goes really into your intimate soul, and therefore I would recommend him. I recommend him to you. And if you ask me something that represents me right now, it's this one. Because the right music, the piece, let's say, that gets you, fixes all the elements in you. It's like a vibration that gets into your vibration, and let's say it puts it all together. When I have some stressful sounds of the regular life, I go home and I put on a piece like this and I don't say a word. And it's as if it rebalances me. It's as if it fixed all the moral levels of my being. So Philip Glass is magical. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us and everything else. It was magical. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.